It's a great day and happy to have you all children. Today we are going to discuss capacitors but in a little bit different way. Look into this. Please tell me the story of my life by capacitors. Yes, we are going to explain to the capacitor what it is or well who he is. Okay, but why it is important? Why to know yourself is an important thing. Look into this quote. As soon as you are born, you are given a name, a religion, a nationality and a race. You spend the rest of your life defending a fictional identity. Yeah, we all as civilized robots defending all these identities with which we are created, and we totally forget about creating an identity for ourselves is much more important. I repeat, we totally forget creating an identity for ourselves is much more important. So, create an identity for yourselves in this vast universe and give some meaning to your birth. In order to do that, knowing yourselves is the first step. So, know yourself, create an identity. Okay, so today we are going to be helpful to the capacitor to let it know about itself. A little different try. Ready for the story time? But not a little story, a little bit lengthened one. First of all, capacitors. Capacitors of a parallel plate capacitor. Energy stored in the capacitor. Applications of capacitors. So by explaining all these things, we are going to explain to or we are going to reply to the capacitor's questions. Who am I? Right? Who am I? That is the question of the capacitor again. So here goes our reply. You are a capacitor. So the next question of the capacitor will be, what am I used for? What is the purpose of my life? So it is used to store electric charges. So not just electric charges, it is to store the energy too. So capacitors are used to store electric charges. So this may be a little bit confusing for you because even batteries are used to store electric charges, as we have studied already. So it is supplying the electric current. So it is also used to store the energy in that form, right? So that may be confusing for you. So here goes the explanation for it. So actually capacitors are similar to the batteries because they store the electric charges. So they have many similarities, but in what way they are different? See, in the case of batteries, we know that the energy is stored in the form of chemical energy. We will be having two plates, that is an electrode and an anode will the electrode and the cathode will be there. That is, two electrodes are present over there and they will be separated by a gap, which that gap will be filled by the electrolyte, right? So we know that the energy stored in the form of chemical energy in the case of a battery. So when it is connected to the power external circuit, it will be supplying the electric current continuously, isn't it? That is the case with the battery. But in what way the capacitors are different from that? So a battery can produce electrons, but a capacitor just to store the electrons. It is not producing electron. It has the ability to store some electron. So this can be understood even more better when we look into the battle between batteries and capacitors. So here they have compared batteries with the Batman, right? Maybe the first three letters are similar because of that. And capacitors are compared to superconductors, that is Superman, right? Why? Because the super capacitors are available in the market. Maybe that may be the reason. So here comes the battle between batteries and capacitors. So I told you already they have some similarities. So they can store electric charges or electrical energy, but in what way they are different? That is what is going to be explained now. So look into this. Potential energy is stored in the form of chemical energy in the case of batteries, as I told you already. But in the case of capacitors, the potential energy is stored in the form of electric field. Note it down, we will prove it at the end of this session. Okay. Second thing is energy density. You know that we can store more amount of energy in the batteries, but in the case of capacitors, only less amount of energy can be stored. Then in the case of charging and the discharging, just like how the batteries can be charged and the discharged, the capacitors can also do the same. And here in the case of charging and discharging, capacitors takes the lead. That is, capacitors can charge and discharge faster when compared to the batteries. Okay, so that is the difference. So we have discussed that why the capacitor is used now, but batteries are available already. Then what is the purpose of using a capacitor? So even the capacitor, the batteries can supply the electrical energy, right? So for what reason we are using the capacitors then? That is our question. That is the question of our capacitor also. So it is asking why me. So here comes the explanation for it. For example, we will discuss it with this little very small example that will make you to understand it better. So here we have taken a pump which is supplying water to a nearby town, imagine. So here you can see a valve which is red in color over there. So when the valve is closed, no water will flow out of it, and when it is open we can see that water will be flowing. But in that case, if everybody is getting water and they are completely satisfied now, so what we can do with the excess flow of water over there? So what we can do is we can construct a small storage tank near to the town. So in that case, what happens is the water flows out of this pump can be stored in the storage tank. So even after the main valve is closed, we will be getting the water supplied through the side pump. Okay, so in two ways it will be useful. First use of the storage tank is when the excess water flows out of the first pump, we can store it for the later use. And in the same way, when there is no water available, even in that case we can store it and use it for the later need. Okay, so that is the main difference. So even when the main valve is closed, we can see that we can supply the water continuously to the tank, that is town, with the help of this storage tank. So this capacitor is going to act like a storage tank here. Okay, so here we can see that a water tank stores water pressure when the water system produces more water than a town needs. The excess is stored in the water tank. At times of high demand, the excess of water flow out of the tank. Similarly, a capacitor stores electron in same way and can release them later when the need arises. Do you understand, children? So is not it interesting? Yes, it is. So let us see how it is applicable to our capacitor in an electronic circuit. So here given an electronic circuit in which a resistor is used. The resistor is used to control the current in a circuit normally. And next we have a LED, light emitting diode, a small bulb over there. Then we have a switch, and then we have a battery. You can see that the switch is opened here, so the bulb is not glowing here. Next, if you are closing the switch, you can see that the bulb is glowing, right? So once you open the switch, again the bulb will not be glowing. So again if you close the switch, the bulb will be glowing over there. So now if you have to give some break to the battery, what happens? There will not be any flow of current through the wire, and the LED will not be glowing at all, right? So in that case, what we can do is we can connect a capacitor to that. So now in that case, a battery will simultaneously charge the capacitor and will be giving current to the LED. So now the LED will be glowing. So after some time, what we are doing is we are just, when the capacitor is fully charged, after that we are just giving a break to the battery. You can see that the switch is opened now. Okay, so the battery is no way connected to the capacitor or to the LED now. So even after the battery is removed from this main circuit, you can see that the LED continues glowing till the capacitor is completely discharged. So capacitor is acting as a backup here to the battery. So it can store the charges temporarily, and it can work when there is no battery at all. Do you understand this, children? So you may be confusing it with your power bank, but there is a little bit difference between the capacitor and the power bank anyway. Study about it. Okay, so next we are going to discuss what do I possess. That is the next question of our capacitor. So what are the components of the capacitor? So we know that capacitor is acting as a backup to the battery there, but what are its components? So you can see it in this diagram. So we have different types of capacitors available, and what is given here is an aluminum capacitor. So in the aluminum capacitor, we are taking aluminum foil and they are separated with the help of a dielectric. That is what is called a separator. So what do you mean by a dielectric? Yeah, dielectric is nothing but an insulator. So here we can use different insulators to do that, and it is rolled into the form of a cylinder, and it is connected to two terminals which are connected to the external circuit. Okay children, this is about aluminum capacitors. And in the case of ceramic capacitor. This is called ceramic capacitor. In the case of ceramic capacitor, other than the outer productive case, we will be having two electrodes separated by a dielectric. So the dielectric is normally ceramic here, and then we are provided with the terminal for making the external connections. So this is all about the components. What are the components used in a capacitor? So the next question of our capacitor is, how am I functioning? How am I working? So that is the next question of our capacitor. So it is going to be explained in a very simple manner. So here comes a very important part of our discussion, children. So listen carefully. So first of all, what is a capacitor? Just now, as we have discussed, it will be consisting of two conducting things, and it is separated by an insulator. So let us consider a parallel plate capacitor. At the top and the bottom, we have two plates of any shape, maybe circular or maybe square, whatever it is, depending upon the need. It is separated by a dielectric material here. Okay, so initially the plates, the conducting plates, are neutral in nature. Neutral in the sense they don't have any charge at all, because they have equal number of positive and negative charges present in it. So it does not have any charge at all. So what we are going to do next is, we are going to connect it to a external power source. You can see that the top plate has 5 positive charges and 5 negative charges. The bottom plate is also having the same thing. Now we are connecting to an external battery of supply voltage capital V. So what happens as soon as you are connecting it to an external battery? So as soon as we are connecting it to an external battery, we can see that the electrons present in the top of it, top portion of it, that is the top plate, that will be dragged towards or drifted towards the positive terminal of the battery. Okay, so the electrons present in the top plate will be rushing towards the positive terminal of the battery. So at the return of it, what happens is, the electrons present in the negative terminal, the excess electrons, whatever it got from the top plate of the capacitor, will be repelled towards the bottom plate over there. So the electrons are moving from the top plate to the bottom plate through the battery in this case. So you may be wondering why it is not happening directly. The exchange of electrons are not happening directly between the plates, because we have filled it with the dielectric in this case, and that is the reason why the exchange of electrons is not taking place directly, but through the battery which we have taken. So this continuously reduces the number of electrons present in the top plate. So as time progresses, the top plate is reducing, it is losing the electron, and at one point of time there will be a deficiency of electron, and that makes the top plate to be positive. As a return of it, as the converse of it, opposite of it, what happens here is, this bottom plate is attracting electrons, make it to be more negative. So at one point of time, the bottom plate becomes completely negative. So what is present in the top plate now? Yes, we have positive charges there. And what is present in the lower plate now, that is the bottom plate now, it is completely filled with the negative charges now. Okay children, so how long this will continue? So this will continue. See, as we have positive charges at the top plate and negative charges in the bottom plate, there will be a flow of electric field will be happening over there, but there will be a potential difference developed between them. We know that there is a positive and there is a negative, so there is a potential difference between the capacitor, that is across the capacitor. So until then, this developed voltage is equal to the supply voltage, battery voltage V. This process continues. So once that level is reached, that limit is reached, the flow of electrons is completely stopped. So while it is stopped, what happens over there is, this top plate is completely filled with the positive charges and the bottom plate is completely filled with the negative charges now. So we can see in this case, automatically what happens is, there will be positive charge present in the top plate and negative charges present in the bottom plate, and now there will be an electric field over there. So we can see that the electric field lines will be starting from the positive plate and reaches the negative plate, and all these electric field lines will be perpendicular to the plate and parallel to each other. Okay children, so now there is an electric field. So we know the formula for electric field, it is equal to V by D. So it is always associated with the electric field now. Okay, now as the charges are present there, so even after the external voltage is removed, we are removing the external battery now. So even after the external battery is removed, we can see that the charges remain there in the capacitor for some time. Okay, so now what we are going to do is, we are going to connect it to a external bulb, okay, some other electric circuit now. So initially when the switch is opened, you can see that the bulb is not glowing. So now what we are doing is we are connecting it to the that is we are connecting both bulb and the capacitor now by closing the switch. So as soon as the switch is closed, we can see that the bulb is glowing. So initially the bulb was not glowing, but now we can see that the bulb is glowing. So this bulb will keep on glowing until the charges present in the capacitor is completely discharged. So what happens here is the electrons present, first it is initially glowing, but as time progresses, what happens is the electrons present in the positive plate is continuously moving to the negative plate in the beginning during the charging of the capacitor, you may remember. But now what happens is opposite to that, the electrons present in the lower part of it is going towards the top of it, that is from the bottom the electrons are drifted towards the top plate, and that happens through the bulb, and that makes the bulb to glow actually. So you can see that as the time progresses, the number of electrons are reducing. At one point of time completely the electrons present are used up, and there are no more of extra electron charges present over there. So that will stop the bulb to glow. So automatically we can see that the capacitor becomes chargeless now and it is completely discharged. So once again we have to charge the capacitor and we can make it to glow the bulb, make it to glow the bulb by discharging it. Do you understand, children? So this is how it is happening. So here we can see that how many charges are induced over there in the capacitor, that is Q, is directly proportional to V. So if you increase the supply voltage, we can increase the number of charges present in the capacitor itself. So Q is directly proportional to V. So whenever a proportionality symbol is removed, we used to introduce a constant. So here the constant is nothing but it is C, capital C, and it is called capacitance. So it is given by the formula C is equal to Q by V, because Q is equal to C into V. So this C is nothing but a capacitance, and it is the ability of the given capacitor to store the charges. So that is what is called as capacitance normally. Okay, so it is given by the formula Q by V, and its unit is farad. From the formula we can give it as coulomb per volt, but its SI unit is farad actually. So its practical units are millifarad, microfarad and picofarad. Do you understand, children? So this is all about how a capacitor is functioning. So the next comes the types of capacitors. So capacitors are normally two different types. They belong to two different types, fixed and variable. So variable and fixed, the name indicates its meaning. Fixed capacitors values cannot be changed. So it is the fixed one. 10 microfarad means it will be 10 microfarad, it cannot be changed. But in the case of variable capacitors, we can vary the value of it, just like how we are doing with your fan normally. Just by varying the regulator, you are varying the speed of the fan. The same thing happens here. So here the variable capacitor is subdivided into ceramic, air, mica, plastic. So this explains which dielectric is used over there, whether you are using ceramic or air or mica or plastic. That is what is explained with the help of a different types explained over there. What dielectric used, it is named after that. So next comes the fixed one. So as I told you already, it is fixed, it cannot be changed. So it is divided into two types of electrolytic and electrostatic. So what do you mean by electrolytic? What do you mean by electrostatic? So electrostatic is similar to what we have discussed in the variable capacitors. Here we will be using two conductors separated by a dielectric. Simple. So here mica, ceramic, plastic, paper can be used. The only difference is the values are fixed, we cannot change it, but there we can change it. Then what is an electrolytic capacitors? In the case of electrolytic capacitors, we have two different types, tantalum and aluminium. So here also we are going to use the conductors anyway. So just similar to electrostatic, we are going to use aluminium foil or maybe tantalum pellet to produce that make that conductor. But what makes the difference is there we are using dielectric, but here we will be using an oxide layer normally, and that oxide layer will be used as an insulator over here. So that is what is called as electrolytic capacitors. Okay, children. So this is about the symbol of a capacitor. So the fixed capacitor is denoted in the left side and the variable capacitor is represented in the right side. You can recall the symbol which we are using for a battery. In the case of a battery, the terminal, one of the terminals will be, the positive terminal will be of greater length and the negative terminal will be of lesser length. But here in the case of capacitor, both should be of same length. That is the difference. So different types of capacitors are displayed here for your reference. So the first one is ceramic capacitor, paper capacitor, electrolytic capacitor, mica capacitor, and finally film capacitor. So so far we have explained to our capacitor about what is capacitor, what it is used for, how it is functioning, what are its different types, what is its symbol. So all these things we have discussed, and now we are going to explain to capacitor what is capacitance, because it is asking now what is my capacity, but we have to remind it, I think so it must have forgotten. It is not called as capacity, it is called as capacitance. It has a special name. Capacitor, your capacity is called as capacitance, so call it as a capacitance hereafter. So here comes a capacitance of a parallel plate capacitor. How to find out an expression for it? It's very simple. So let us consider a parallel plate capacitor here. You can see that it has two plates of area capital A. It is separated by a distance of d. So as we know already, it has an electric field that exists between the plates, and the left plate at the left have plus q charges and the plate at the right have minus q charges. So remember, the charge density, the charges will be same in both the plates. Now we have to get an expression for capacitance. So in our book they have given it in the reverse order. So if you go in the order as I have explained here, it will be easy for you. So what is our aim? To get an expression for capacitance. So it is given here. C is equal to Q by V is our formula. So now what we are going to do is we are going to get an expression for Q, we are going to get an expression for V, and we are going to substitute it both to get an expression for C. So what is the formula for C? Q normally. So Q is given by the formula sigma A, because sigma is surface charge density and it is charge per unit area. So sigma is Q by A, so Q can be written as sigma into A here. Now come to V. E is equal to V by D. So V is equal to E into D automatically. But what is E here? They have taken E to be sigma by epsilon naught. Can you guess why E is equal to sigma by epsilon naught from this diagram? See, this is nothing but your third application of Gauss law. So you might have derived an expression for the electric field due to infinite plane sheet of charges, right? So here if you take a point in between the charge, that is in between the plates, the electric field produced is equal to sigma by epsilon naught, and if you consider a point outside, the electric field is going to be 0. This is what we have discussed over there. The same formula we are going to use it here, because we are dealing with the parallel plates, right? So E is equal to sigma D, sigma by epsilon naught, so V is equal to sigma D by epsilon naught. Now substitute the value of Q and V in the capital C expression. So C is equal to sigma A by sigma D by epsilon naught. Take a reciprocal, it is sigma A into epsilon naught by sigma D, that is equal to epsilon naught A by D. So C is given by the formula epsilon naught A by D. So remember, if you take epsilon naught is nothing but permittivity of the free space. So if we consider that we are filling the space in between the plates with the air or maybe with the vacuum. So in that case the formula is epsilon naught A by D. So if you take epsilon naught to be constant, C is directly proportional to A and C is inversely proportional to D. This is a very, very important objective. Okay, here we can see that when you are increasing the area, capacitance increases, they are directly proportional. When you are increasing the distance, capacitance decreases automatically, so because they are inversely proportional. So they have given one more formula, C dash. So C dash is nothing but, suppose if you are filling the gap in between the parallel plates, normally we are filling it with the dielectric, right? Because it is a proved factor that whenever you are filling it with the dielectric, automatically what happens is the capacitance of a capacitor is normally increased. So it is a proved concept. So if you are filling it with the dielectric, then the formula becomes epsilon A by D. Why epsilon A by D? Because epsilon represents the permittivity of the medium which we are choosing, dielectric medium which we are choosing. So this epsilon can be rewritten as epsilon naught epsilon R. So C dash can also be written as epsilon naught epsilon R A by D. Okay children, this is the capacitance of a parallel plate capacitor. Very, very, very important 3-mark question. Okay, so here there is an exception for this. See, we have used up the equation E is equal to sigma D by epsilon naught, which is the equation for infinite plane sheet of charges. But what we are using here is not infinite plane sheets, we are using finite plane sheets. So in the case of finite plane sheets, that is in the exterior end, okay, in the exterior end we can see that the electric field lines will not be straight, but it will be a curved one. So this curved field is normally called as fringing field. So because of that, there may be a variation in the value of this sigma D by epsilon naught value. So even in that case it will be very less when we ignore, that is if we can ignore it, if d square is very much lesser than a, and that is the reason why we choose this d to be very much lesser value. That is, we have to keep the plates as close as possible, because it will be useful in two ways, because decreasing the d can increase the capacitance, and similarly we can ignore the fringing field effect also. Do you understand, children? That is about the capacitance of a parallel plate capacitor. So let us discuss a simple problem here. A parallel plate capacitor has square plates of side 5 cm and separated by a distance of 1 mm. Calculate the capacitance, and if 10 volt battery is connected to it, what will be the charge stored in one of the plates? So here they have given it as the square plates. So the area becomes a square. A is given as 5 cm, so it is 25 into 10 power minus 4. Now distance is 1 mm, that is 10 power minus 3. So substitute it in the formula C is equal to epsilon naught A by D. That will give you the final value of it. Now they have given they are connecting 10 volt battery to it. So what will be the charge stored over there? We know C is equal to Q by V. So what is Q? Good, C into V. So multiply the capacitance what we have got now with the voltage 10 volt. That will give you the charge stored over there, that is 221.2 in picocoulomb. Okay children, so here comes the next question of our capacitor. The capacitor is very much curious to know about itself, it seems. So it is asking, do I possess energy? As we have called it as a Superman, it wants to know, do I possess energy? Yes, it possesses energy. Why it possesses energy? See, in the case of parallel plate capacitor, we have discussed that we are bringing the charges from one plate to another plate. We are moving the charges from one plate to another plate. That is what we have discussed while we were discussing about the functioning of the capacitor also. So in order to move the charges from one point to the another point, some amount of energy is supplied by the external battery which we are connecting. So whatever energy is supplied by the battery, that energy will be stored in the capacitor. Okay, so that energy, that potential energy will be stored. Whatever work is done over there, that will be stored in the capacitor. So that is what we are going to see now. So in what form it is stored, that we will discuss at the end. So first of all, if dq amount of charge has to be moved from one plate to another plate, the work done is taken as dw. So dw is equal to v into dq. So you know that v is equal to q by c. So this is the work done for bringing dq amount of charge. Suppose if you have to bring q amount of charge, you have to integrate the equation on either sides. So dw on integration will give you w. In the right side, integrated between 0 to q, v dq, that is v is q by c dq. Okay, why it is between the limits 0 and q? Because initially it does not have any charge, so it is 0. We are charging it with the q charges, so it is q. That is why the lower limit is 0 and the upper limit is q now. 1 by c is a constant, take it out, q dq on integration will give you q square by 2. Again on substituting the limits, it's q square by 2c minus 0, that is equal to q square by 2c. So now in the place of q, substitute cv. So you are getting an expression as uz is equal to half cv square. So it is similar to half mv square, which is the expression for kinetic energy. But remember, what we have derived here is not kinetic energy, it is an expression for potential energy. So ue, if you take v to be constant, it is directly proportional to c, and if you take c to be constant, we can see that it is directly proportional to the square of the v. Okay children, so here substitute for c as epsilon naught a by d, as we are dealing with the parallel plate capacitor. So in the place of v in the equation 1.87, substitute ed. Now what we are getting is 1 by 2 epsilon naught a by d into ed the whole square. So it is e square, d is getting cancelled. So finally half epsilon naught ad into e square. So we want to find out what this energy is, where this energy is stored actually. That is where we are proceeding now. So look at this expression 1.88. What does this ad represents here? A is nothing but the area of the plates, and d is the distance of separation between the plates, right? So A is the area of the plate and d is the distance of separation between the two plates, right children? So when you are multiplying A with the d, what you are getting is nothing but the area filled by this gap, that is this gap's volume. The what if you are filling it with the dielectric, the volume of the dielectric, or if you are taking air, the volume of the air present over there. That is what we are obtaining over here. So A into d will give you nothing but the volume over there. So it is volume of the space between the capacitor plates. So what we are doing is we are dividing this capital UE with the volume now, that is by AD now. That will give you small letter UE, that is nothing but energy density. Remember, the energy density is normally denoted with the letter small letter U, and UE is equal to half into epsilon naught E square. So we can understand from this final expression that this potential energy is stored in the form of the electric field. So I want you to recall what you have discussed in your when we are discussing about the difference between batteries and the capacitors. So potential energy is stored in the form of the electric field in the case of capacitors, but in the case of batteries it is stored in the form of the chemical energy. Okay children, that is the main difference between them both. So this is the final expression for energy. Okay, so next we can pass on to the applications of capacitors. So what are the different applications of capacitors? So capacitors are used in the digital cameras. So you can see that in order to produce the flash, we are using the capacitors there. Capacitor can store the energy which it is obtaining from the batteries actually, and it can give it out in the very short duration of time, and that is the reason why we are using it in the digital cameras. Then we are using it in the heart defibrillators. So in the case of heart defibrillators, we can see that during the cardiac arrest, what it is doing is it is producing or giving out a large amount of electrical energy to the patient's chest, so that the heart will start functioning normally again. Okay, so here we are using a capacitor of normally as 175 microfarad, and it is charged with the high voltage of 2000 volt normally. Okay, compare it with what we are using for our household purposes, it is just a 220 volt. Even in the case of industries, we are using 440 volt. So we are stepping out with the help of a transformer and raise up to 2000 volt, and that is used to charge our heart defibrillators normally. Okay, the next thing is it is used in the ignition system of automobile engines just to avoid sparking. Okay, so then it is used in the power supplies in the case of big buildings. If there is any power fluctuation, that will damage our electrical and electronic components whatever we are using. So to avoid the power fluctuations, we are using a capacitors of greater capacitance normally. Okay children, so that is the next one. Okay, so far we have explained so many things to the capacitor. I think it is losing its tolerance little bit, and so it just want to know what is its tolerance. So here comes some extra bit of information for you which are not given in our book. So what is my tolerance? That is the question of our capacitor, right? So normally you can see it in a capacitor. It is even in the capacitor given over here, this is the aluminum capacitor. Here it is given as 3400 microfarad, 16 volt capacitor. So we can understand that 3400 microfarad is its capacitance, right? What is the 16 volt? Explain to us then. See, look at the first diagram. You can see that a capacitor is connected to it. So when you are connecting it to it, and if the external voltage which is supplied from the battery is exceeding the 16 volt, what happens to the capacitor is the capacitor will be completely damaged. It will burst as it is given in the second diagram. So that will happen to the capacitor. So capacitor, know your tolerance. Okay, so it must be operated within that voltage now. So how to find the capacitance of a ceramic capacitor? If the value is printed on the capacitor itself, we know it, but in the case of ceramic capacitors, it is of very smallest sized one. So there they will not give the value directly, rather than that they will give it as a code that has to be decoded. So let us understand how it has to be decoded. This is all extra bit of information children. Okay, so for example here it is given as 104, 102, 103. So how do you know what is the value of it? Okay, write it as 104. First two digits represents the significant figures. So write it as it is 10. Now the third digit has to be taken as a power of 10. So it is 10 into 10 power 4. Always express the value in picofarad in the case of a ceramic capacitor. So 10 into 10 power 4 picofarad. Now pico is 10 power minus 12. So 10 power 4 into 10 power minus 12 is 10 power minus 8. And now that is 10 into 10 power minus 8 is 10 power minus 7. We have to express the final value in microfarad. So it is 0.1 microfarad now. Do you understand? So similarly, try it with the 102 and 103 also. Okay children. So now the last part of it, a capacitor can produce shock. Is it shocking? Yes, it can produce shock also. So normally a capacitor is charged, right, with the help of a battery. So after the battery is removed also, the charges will be present in the capacitor until it is discharged completely. So it is not advisable to touch the capacitor even after you are switching off the power for some time. So sometimes the capacitor has to be allowed in the free air so that the charges can be discharged, so charges can be escaped to the air. Do you understand, children? I think our capacitor would have got a complete picture of what it is now. So we have explained to the capacitor about all the things, that is what it is actually, what is its purpose, how it is functioning, what are its different types, what is the symbol used for it, how we can read the, how we know the value of it, so what is its energy, what is its capacitance, all these things we have discussed. So I think our capacitor would have got a clear picture of what it is now. Now you are the decider of your destiny, the inventor of your identity. You create your own story, and perhaps more importantly, you write the final chapter. So you are the one who has to decide whom do you want to be in the future, or what do you want to be in the future. It's all in your hands. Know yourself, create an identity for yourself. Thank you, children.